Hi, it's Nick Veach here. Today I want to talk about Joe Biden. Originally I was going to make a video about him being a plagiarist, and I was going to talk about plagiarism or just kind of getting not footnoting stuff and whatnot. But the deeper I looked into this, the more I realized there's something a bit deeper going on. It's not that has criminal tendencies and that kind of thing. I mean, he has a storied history of plagiarism and even kind of buffoonish lying on the campaign trail. At times when even you knew he was sure to be outed, but he still did it. You're like, what? Initially, I thought he might have criminal impulses, and I'm kind of prejudiced against the Democrats. Anyway, well, not that I'm a fan of the Republican politicians either. I'm particularly not a fan of the Republican Party, the GOP. But I read Biden's defenses of plagiarism, and they didn't come off as being some kind of smooth, slick, unctuous, kind of greasy, kind of career politician kind of type. He wasn't like kind of trying to move the criticism to somebody else. There wasn't this kind of whataboutism, like what about this guy or that guy or yeah but yeah but. No, it was kind of like he confessed, if you will. He fessed up to it right away and blamed himself. It was straightforward. Yeah, there was some fibbing, omissions here and there, whatever else to convenience him. Okay, that's true, but it just didn't come across as a kind of some kind of super clever, confident kind of swindler type, which is what you would have expected if it was somebody else. Um, and so I found his defenses of plagiarism oddly compelling. It kind of totally defeated my original purpose. I was like, what? Right? So, and then again, there was this kind of off-color, even reckless public statements. The kind of stuff they said about Obama, which I'll show. You're like, what? And stuff he said about thwarting an investigation into his son, which I'll also show later. You're like, he did this on a stage, in front of cameras, tons of people. What? Right? And then I realized it's not about criminal impulses. It's about his seeming inability to govern any of his impulses. It's not that he's reckless. He doesn't even know where the boundaries are. He's not being reckless because he doesn't even know what reckless means. I'm beginning to think he's autistic. For instance, there's his creepy embrace of women, but what's interesting about this is that it's all women, regardless of age or status. So it's like his defenders have said, it's not really about him being sexual. Check it out. Hi. How are you? Bear hug. She's like, okay, yeah, enough already, dude. Come on. Lots of love. Here you might be thinking, okay, maybe there's something going on. He's got the hots for it, but this? What? Okay, again, maybe it's like, okay, maybe go for the young stuff. You're like, okay, but this? What is this? Granny? Maybe he's like, super young, right? But then check this baby out. Now, what is this? But check out, he's like nuzzling her like he's a pooch, like it's a Saint Bernard or Labrador Retriever. You see that? Check that again. Doink. See? Look at the hands. Pooch. Hi, pooch. Poochy pooch. Right? And that's key. Keep that in mind as we go along. Then there's this kind of crude praise of minorities, even Obama, and you're thinking, come on, this guy's a politician. These guys are supposed to be slick. I mean, and what he's saying, it's not as if he's like trying to be like keeping it real, like this kind of blue collar person of the people, man of the common clay, kind of, Abraham Lincoln type, log splitter, rail splitter, whatever. No, this is just weird. Check it out.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American, who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
That's a storybook, man? What is that? That's like, he's articulate and bright and clean and nice looking guy. Now, of course, we know what he's trying to say, but I mean, for a politician to talk like this, and the idea that, oh, well, he's just from a certain generation. I mean, no. This is too weird. This is too clueless. He has no idea how people are going to receive this, and that's the key, I think. And so again, is why I think he's probably autistic. And then check this one out. This one's really kind of bizarre, because he's it's this outlandishly reckless statement which he gives. How he explains how he's wielding his office as the vice president to have a prosecutor fired in Ukraine. I mean, this is just bizarre. Who would yeah, check it out. It's just nutty beyond belief.
And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Okay, so what's so reckless about that is that it just draws attention to him, and there's some behind the scenes shenanigans that are going on, and this really cuts close to home, which leads to this story in the Hill just the other day. Joe Biden's 2020 Ukrainian nightmare. A closed probe is revived. Right? Interviews with half a dozen senior Ukrainian officials confirm Biden's account, though they claim the pressure was applied over several months in late 2015 and early 2016, not just 6 hours of one dramatic day. So you get Biden's kind of typical kind of exaggeration and kind of humble brag, or if you want to call it that, or just, plain braggadocio, because he has a chance to kind of, look good in front of a crowd. Whatever the case, Poroshenko and Ukraine's parliament obliged by ending Shokin's tenure as prosecutor. Shokin was facing steep criticism in Ukraine and among some U.S. officials for not bringing enough corruption prosecutions when he was fired. But, according to the author, Ukrainian officials tell me there was one crucial piece of information that Biden must have known but did not mention to his audience. The prosecutor he got fired was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into the natural gas firm Burisma Holdings that employed Biden's younger son, Hunter, as a board member. Right? So again, why would he be so reckless in public about this? U.S. banking records show Hunter Biden's American-based firm, Rosemont Seneca Partners LLC, received regular transfers into one of its accounts, usually more than $166,000 a month, from Burisma from spring 2014 through fall 2015, during a period when Vice President Biden was the main U.S. official dealing with Ukraine and its tense relations with Russia. Shokin told me in written answers to questions that, before he was fired as general prosecutor, he had made specific plans for the investigation that included interrogations and other crime investigation procedures into all members of the executive board, including Hunter Biden. And this kind of inability to govern his impulses has a long history. I mean, here's Joe Biden's response to a hostile question on the campaign trail back in 1988.
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think we all
I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Yeah. 3 degrees, 4 degrees, maybe 5 or 10 degrees. Maybe he completed 2,000 credits before he finished. This is just complete balderdash. And what's amazing again is that he's doing it in front of reporters with a camera on, and he knows he's going to be caught out, but he still does it. What the hell is going on? And if you're suspicious, or if you're not exactly sure what I'm talking about, did Joe Biden drop out? Oh no, this is a different thing here. Hold on. Coming up. Oh. Found it. What's even more bizarre is, check this out. In a gesture of transparency, Biden handled the media a 65-page file containing all of his academic records from the Syracuse University College of Law. So in other words, to vouch for what he was talking about, what he was saying was correct, he handed a 65-page file. And what was in the file? It showed that he graduated 76th in his law school class of 85. What? The law school transcript also showed that he made little progress in class standing through the 3-year course, ranking 80th out of 100 in the first semester of the first year, and 79th out of 87 in the second semester of his second year. He gave them a 65-page file. What the hell is going on? I mean, it's just crazy, right? And he said, for example, in I guess in his memoir in 2007, he said, I had been immature and skipped class and blown the legal methods paper. Okay, this is what's interesting. What's interesting is that he doesn't give the kind of excuses you expect. He doesn't have the paper over it. He doesn't, I mean, well, he dodges a little bit. But it's much more like a person actually explaining what they really were doing. It is to me anyway. Okay, anyway. I had been immature and skipped class and blown the legal methods paper. I was the one who thought it was good enough to just get by in law school. I lost my temper in New Hampshire. What I'd said, this is when up in that public presentation when he started blathering on about how many degrees he'd earned at college. What I'd said about my academic achievements was just faulty memory or lack of knowledge. I hadn't remembered where I finished in my law school class. I hadn't cared. Right? But to say want to compare IQs was so stupid. All of it was my fault, and I didn't want to compound the mistakes. Now, here's this nonsense. What I said about my academic achievements was just faulty memory and lack of knowledge. No, that's baloney. He was just spouting off complete nonsense. He was just trying to outperform someone because he felt, what was it? He had his inferiority complex came to the fore or whatever. We all have an inferiority complex. That's fine, but he didn't control the impulse to overdo it. And then up here you get this. But anyway, but this section here largely still it seems to me a lot of truth in it, despite the fudging. I mean, for a politician, it seems pretty truthy, if you know what I mean. And then up here, again, you've got Biden said he was frustrated and angry as hell about the media reports. I exaggerate when I'm angry. Check this out. I exaggerate when I'm angry. What? But I've never gone around telling people things that aren't true about me. Why do I actually believe that? I mean, maybe it's complete baloney, because I don't know that much about it. But that he told the New York Times. It's so easy to make things look like there's something sinister about them. I think there's actually a lot to that. Okay, with regard to this, he says, I exaggerate when I'm angry, but I've never gone around telling people things that aren't true about me. This sentence, I've never gone around telling people things that aren't true about me. According to Politico, his first wife died in a car crash in 1972. The Biden vehicle was struck by a truck carrying corn cobs as they journeyed to pick out a Christmas tree, so it's really tragic stuff. Over the years, Biden has discussed his love. But look at how he discusses it. Discussed his love for Nelia, including to the author Kitty Kelly. He's a famous biographer of luminaries. Nelia was my very best friend, my greatest ally, my sensuous lover. He told her in 1974. The longer we lived together, the more we enjoyed everything from sex to sports. Most guys don't really know what I lost because they never knew what I had. Now, isn't that, again, it's just, I mean, I don't know, what are you going to say? It's 1974 and everybody's like hippy dippy and, wavy gravy and, let it all hang out, man. No, this is just bizarre. My greatest ally, my sensuous lover, the longer we lived together, the more we enjoyed everything from sex to sports. Sensuous lover, sex. Guys don't know what they lost because they never knew what I had. Sex. So basically, 3 times, because that's how I read that last sentence. 3 times it's sex, sex, and sex. Right? This is not how politicians talk. Right? You can be infatuated with sex, whatever, but you don't talk about it like this in public, and certainly not to a biographer, and not to, and then have it show up in print. So it's kind of similar to him making that admission that he'd leveraged the investigator in Ukraine, doing that in public. Again, it's just he never seems to know boundaries. He doesn't understand that there's too much information, or else how is this going to be received by other people? Again, which is why I think he's autistic. And before I leave this, let's just revisit this one more time. The way he's fondling her chin like that, like it's a dog. I'm serious about that. Not because I'm trying to make an accusation or say something pejorative about the guy. When I was first dating, for example, I mean, I was raised to be very hyper masculine, just as a guy's kind of guy, kind of a thing. My father's from rural Scotland, and it was just this kind of, you're very kind of self-contained. You don't express a lot of emotion. You're just kind of, I was just when I was younger, I was angry and in people's faces, and I was very literal minded, and I didn't go to, you could even say if you want that I was kind of autistic, although I wasn't. I was just raised to be in a certain way. So when I started dating, I mean, everyone would complain. There were things people liked about me, obviously, but this whole thing where I was just kind of standoffish, and where it was like, you two are supposed to be self-contained. Your assurance is supposed to be come from yourself. You're supposed to be self-assured, self-confident, and all the rest of it. And you shouldn't need anything external. You shouldn't need me to praise you or to say that kind of a thing. And that really rubbed women, as you can imagine, the wrong way. And one of the complaints that I had was that I wasn't physically affectionate, right? And this, and that one girl was just kept going on about it. It's like, okay, whatever. I relented, and to rationalize it to myself, because I thought it was demeaning to myself to actually have to be physically reassuring, by touching whatever a person, whatever. I treated it as a kind of a joke, and I kind of petted her like a dog. Now, to my astonishment, she actually went for it. Even though I was kind of being flagrant about it, but she liked it. She went for it. Now, of course, after a while, I got used to it, and then I'm just like anybody else, touchy-feely, etc. But my point with Joe Biden is, what I think what's happening is that he because he's autistic, he doesn't know how to be affectionate, and so what he sees is other people doing it, but he doesn't have the kind of engagement. So it's like me before, when I was first starting. I was petting my girlfriend like a dog, literally like a dog, right? Almost like pat 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 kind of a thing. Right, because again, I was trying to make a statement, if you will, but it was completely missed by her, and fine, whatever. But what he's doing as an autistic person, he sees people. He doesn't understand why people are doing what they're doing, but he wants to blend in. He wants to mix, and so he's kind of like, in a sense, this will sound harsher than I mean it to be, but it's like the eunuch in the harem. He can't have sex. He can see the act, but he can't really participate in it. And with him, he can see the act of affection, but he can't really participate in it properly. And so he doesn't know how. And so this is a stretch, but he kept talking about his wife and this ex-wife, his widow, or no widow, his deceased wife. Right? Sex, and sex, right? And so I'm thinking, is this what he's trying to do? Because his only kind of proper notion of interaction with women is kind of sexual based. It's not that he's trying to be sexual with these women, but it's just that's the only thing he really understands. So he does the kind of the what do you call the touchy-feely thing, which he associates with women. He does it in a very kind of a crude and clumsy way, and does it with every woman, no matter what her age is, because that's the only way he knows how to try to interact with people. It's like a kind of a space alien. You don't have the kind of tactile sensation maybe that we have in our hands and fingers, and the emotional response, and the flushing, and the whatever, which we have. You have one set of emotions for your lovers, for different for your parents, for your kids, for your male friends, your female friends, etc. But he doesn't have that whole that panoply, if you will, that palette basically. Let's say that's a better metaphor. He doesn't have that color palette. He just has black and white. So when he tries to interact with them, he's like, I'll just do what I always do, because that's the only thing he really knows, because he doesn't have the key. He doesn't recognize the cues, and he can't project into what people are going to see or think when he approaches them in this way. So when he keeps doing it, and presumably nobody around him has really gotten in his face about it, or maybe they have, but he just dismissed it because he thinks he must be right and they must be wrong, because he hasn't gotten a lot of backlash about it. So that's really what I think he's doing. He's trying to be more human than he's actually capable of being, because he's autistic, and so he's trying to masquerade as being a normal human being. Again, I'm not saying this to badmouth a guy. It's just who he seems to be. The next thing I'm going to get into is the plagiarism charge, which has been back in the news. There's a couple instances of this. One is back in 1987. Again, I'm going to get into this not because I think it backs up my claim that he's autistic, but just to show that I think he's not necessarily criminally oriented. Let me put it that way. So my point being that when he engages in these gaffes and misstatements of things, and when he blathers on and makes various untrue claims, it's not because he's pursuing. It's like you said, it's not sinister. Anyway, so for example, apparently there was a Neil Kinnock commercial back in the UK. It was a 10-minute spot in Britain on TV, which Biden then lifted. So, for example, the commercial back in the UK began with Kinnick, is being Irish, I presume. Why am I the first Kinnick in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? Then, pointing to his wife in the audience, he continued, why is Glynis the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? Was it because all our predecessors were thick? And then Senator Biden began his remarks by saying that the ideas had come to him spontaneously on the way to the debate, which obviously they did not. I started thinking, as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university? He said. Then pointing to his wife, he continued, why is it that my wife, who is sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college? Is it because our fathers and mothers were not bright? Is it because I'm the first Biden in 1,000 generations to get a college and a graduate degree that I was smarter than the rest? Well, at least he got the number of degrees right. Give him credit for that. I don't know. I mean, is this such a major infraction of such a major violation of intellectual property rights? I mean, it's just one politician just kind of paraphrasing another for his own use. I don't see the big deal. I mean, I'm a writer, and I wouldn't want somebody lifting stuff out of my book. But, word for word, but is this such a big deal? I don't think so. And it's the same thing with the latest thing, where he, here is it here, Joe Biden's climate plan copied language and inadvertently forgot citations, right? But I mean, you look for, there's one, for example, down here. Here, where he's apparently lifted material from climate.gov, a federal website, is his document said 40% of the 567 federally recognized tribes in the United States live in Alaska, where the rapid pace of rising temperatures and melting sea ice and glaciers threaten the critical infrastructure and traditional livelihoods in the state, which the Biden people redid as, of the 567 federally recognized tribes in the United States, 40%, 229 tribes, live in Alaska Native communities. The rapid pace of rising temperatures, melting sea ice and glaciers, and thawing permafrost in Alaska is having a significant negative impact on critical infrastructure and traditional livelihoods in the state. I mean, okay, they overlap, but I mean, is anybody trying to rip off climate.gov? Again, I'm not a fan of the Democrat Party, and I certainly don't want to see Joe Biden become president, but this is like nothing to me. What it suggests to me more than anything else is just the fact that he's just tone deaf. He just, again, has failed to foresee what people are going to be thinking when he does this. And it's just another one. The idea basically with somebody being autistic is that normally cues, okay, you do something and you presage that something, that various consequences are going to be emerging as a consequence of what you're doing. He's failing to do that. He's not picking up on cues. That's one thing. But it's just his failure to predict. It's his failure to project out and to reproduce in your mind what the other person is thinking when they hear certain words or see certain things. Which is why he doesn't understand the whole, the whole touchy-feely thing, and which is why, again, he doesn't seem to be very aware of the effect that it's going to have when you copy material from somebody and you don't attribute them properly. That's my guess. Okay, and finally, check out this latest video that he released for the campaign. It's not his bungling of the state of the world's climate, which all the Democrats are all hyperventilating about and just exaggerating everything to as far as much as they can. This is more fundamental than that. Check out the wording of his opening statement here.
Nothing gives me more hope for the future than seeing my 5 grandchildren challenge expectations.
Nothing gives me more hope for the future than seeing my 5 grandchildren challenge expectations.
They see breakthroughs in technology we can't even yet imagine.
They see breakthroughs in technology we can't even yet imagine. Now, I thought maybe he was misspoken or something. But if you actually read the script, you can see it's exactly what it says. They see breakthroughs in technology we can't even yet imagine. Were they like psychic? This is gibberish, right? They see breakthroughs. He's talking about his grandkids. Yeah, this little girl here, these guys see breakthroughs in technology. That makes no difference at all. That makes no sense whatsoever. What he should be saying is to fill. Oh, come on, stop running on me here, baby. What he should be saying is they will see breakthroughs in technology we can't even imagine. But you notice, again, this is all part of a piece. They left out the word will. Maybe somebody in the staff corrected it. He took it out, or maybe he wrote this himself, or maybe somebody else wrote it and he read it. But I mean, what's with these people? Why they're writing this gibberish? And it's not the only sentence. Check it out.
Can't even yet imagine, but the only way they're going to get a chance to fill.
But the only way they're going to get a chance to fulfill all that potential. Oh, what potential? What? This is gibberish. And this gets back to the thing. Again, this is this autistic inability to project and realize that people not going to understand what Taylor said. I mean, you can kind of get the gist of what he means by figuring out what he must mean, right? But this is... Who writes English like this in 2019? It sounds like the kind of gibberish that H.L. Mencken used to criticize 100 years ago in the 1920s, which was often written deliberately in a woolly, kind of windy fashion, just specifically because people did not want to be understood by the electorate. People were as vague as possible in that day and age. Here, he's not trying to be vague, but he ends up being just completely illogical. Again, I think this comes down to the whole autistic thing. That's why you can't write a proper sentence. Why you can't speak clearly. It's the same thing. So there you have it. Right across the spectrum, I just think he doesn't understand boundaries. He doesn't foresee the responses that his words or actions are going to generate. He's autistic. Maybe a high-functioning autistic, maybe a bullock and not a full-scale bull in the china shop, but there's something definitely going on. Anyway, if you want physical comedy in a president, then he's your man. Just issue him a bladder and grease paint and give him a role off Broadway. But surely not the presidency, yeah? If you want someone who can negotiate with others, foreign heads of state, or with Congress, he's not your man. Seriously, he can't read people. He's going to get frustrated, get mad, he's going to offend people, he's going to grab the wives of foreign dignitaries, there's going to be scandal after scandal. What he's really going to be is Jonah Ryan from the TV show Veep. And if you don't know what that means, check it out.
Are you okay with Congressman Ryan alone?
She'll be fine.
Actually, why don't you stay, Candy?
Jesus Christ, it's not like I'm...
This is Joe Biden. This is what's going to happen, I'm telling you.
Stay, Candy.
Jesus Christ, it's not like I'm going to rape the president.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just say you aren't going to rape the president?
Of course I'm not. Why would I say I would?
Why would you say you wouldn't?
Because I wouldn't.
I think maybe your people should come in too. Gentlemen?
What did he do, man?
Nothing. I didn't do anything.
Well, he threatened to not rape the president.
Yeah, that's not a threat. That's a promise.
Okay, Congressman, first of all, let me congratulate you. You have accomplished more in 1 month than most extremely stupid people do in a lifetime.
That's very kind of you to say, ma'am.
Shut the fuck up. This is my final offer, all right? Tell Tans he can have his deregulation of the payday loan industry, tripling of the private prison tax incentives,
Nice.
and the sentencing reform rollbacks for the mentally ill.
And you'll get rid of daylight savings time.
Oh my...
Saving.
I cannot do that. That is an impossible request.
Why? Because I'm Jewish?
Excuse me?
He's not Jewish yet, ma'am.
Yeah, but I only have 2 months left of those Jiffy Jew classes, and after that, it's snip, snip, snip. And as an almost Jew, I will not stand by with this anti-almost Semitism.
Why don't you take it up with the Anti-Defamation League?
The fuck is that?
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, as funny as that clip is, I'm actually not even trying to make fun of Joe Biden, but he's just not a people person. I mean, he's people-centric. He likes people. He wants to be a people person. He would, but he's not of the people. Seriously, he's autistic. He's peering at the human circus from the outside as a spectator. I get the feeling he's been trying to fit into human society his whole life, but he never fully bridged the gap. It's sad, but he's the Forrest Gump of 2020. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, what you heard, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.